your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, and be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I am Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan, and we have a returning guest. She joins us every so often, and it's always nice to have her with us here on the program. Her name is Dianne Collins. She's the creator of QuantumThink. There's a trademark there. And the book, Do You Quantum Think? That's a question. And you're the one that would have to read the book and answer that question for yourself. We hope that you will do that, as well as go to her website. We'll give you in a moment. Dianne, welcome back to Tell Me Your Story. It's been about a year, I think, since the last time we chatted.
I looked it up. It has been a year, and I'm so always thrilled to be here with you, Richard. I love our conversations. I know I can, always tune in energetically to your audience, and I know there's a lot of audience from all different venues. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. And of course, to let our listeners know that you're an 11-time award-winning author, media personality, creator of, as I mentioned earlier, the revolutionary quantum think system of new thinking, 21 principles blending scientific insight and spiritual knowledge for attaining personal mastery through the quantum principles and spiritual connection and mystical insights that applied as practical modern wisdom. This fascinating stuff. I especially like, because I do a program with a woman by the name of Lumari of Lumari.com. And one of our programs just recently, we focused on the concepts of mysticism and miracles. And I got to tell you, that was a lot of fun to try to understand that aspect as well. And so we're going to have a fun time here today talking about not only quantum think, but also about a whole lot of other ideas that you have come up with, especially as the visionary that you are. You know that we are living in the second half of this particular year, which is absolutely astounding to me. It was a little over a year ago that we were planning our trying to figure out where we're going to move to. Well, we're here now. And, and that was a journey in and of itself. That's a story that we won't go into right now. But it seems as though the consciousness of the planet at large is rising. That of the citizenry, and even that is going up as well, as in terms of the number of people who are becoming more aware that there's more here than meets the eye. As a matter of fact, if you're using your eye to gauge it, you've missed it. Because
Right.
one of the things that I find so fascinating is, and I always go back to my education in Christian radio. The one thing that Yeshua spoke of constantly, almost constantly, was the non-visible world. He would say to people who said, "Oh, I saw you do these miracles. Oh, wow, it's incredible." And he says, "Well, hey, it's great that you see and you believe. But blessed are those who don't see and yet believe."
And he was referring, in my view, to
Mhm.
the inner eye, the inner vision,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. And he also made reference numerous times to the kingdom of heaven is within you and that you are God's too. It's fascinating how as time goes on and people, there are going to be those who are going to try to rewrite things, retranslate them to fit their agenda, as opposed to, and I thought this was an interesting perspective, as opposed to those who go in to try to retranslate to better understand the messages in the ancient wisdom teachings that we have always had. And this whole aspect of consciousness, okay, this new consciousness, it isn't really new. It's new to us because we are coming of age, so to speak. We are beginning to understand, as one of my guests said, who we always have been. All right. And we are working on getting away from this concept of the new world authority. There is only one authority that you answer to, and only one authority that I answer to. And the funny thing about that is, you and I don't get the same messages. But what's fascinating is the messages that we get are congruent with one another. You have a job to do. I have a job to do. They're not the same job, but somehow they fit together in the grand scheme of things. And to me, that synchronicity is so beautiful. And I kind of want to start there as we start.
That's
I know it's huge, but doesn't that play into this quantum think that we are, in a manner of speaking, not so much changing the way that we think as much as we are starting to think from a more objective perspective now than ever before, because we're understanding that we're all made of the same stardust, as Neil deGrasse Tyson has talked about, that we all come from the same place. And we're all going to the same place, and we're all in the same place.
that's true. And you're
Please.
quite quantum think, as I call it, a new system of thinking. But you're quite right, Richard, that what we're doing now in this, we could call a period of awakening. Some people have called it the Great Shift. The age of Aquarius. But the idea is that we're universally the same and individually unique. And I think this is what you were referring to just now, is that we're all an aspect of the one universal mind. We could call it infinite intelligence, divine mind, I like to think of it. And it's infinite beyond what any of us can individually fathom in any given moment in space-time. However, we have continuous connection to it, access to it. So what's different about this time, which I think is really one of the most relevant conversations that any of us can have, is that because of this dramatic changing time that we're in, and it didn't just begin, but it's becoming more prevalent now. And as you say, people are wanting to wake up. More people are looking toward, well, who am I? What is our spiritual nature? How is our multidimensionality? Like, how do we read it all and still take place, playing our role that we came here to play in the mundane, everyday world? And that's why, when you were giving my little intro, thank you, that practical modern wisdom. So quantum think is a different perspective, not saying how to think, but it's a more expanded framework from which to think. So we have content and we have context. And quantum think is a context that distinguishes the principles that we could say universal wisdom. And the buzzword now, quantum, of course, I've been using it for years, and people used to go, quantum, what's that? And, now it's quite commonplace. But the idea of that we are all connected, holistic and holographic, is the first distinction in the 21 of the quantum think distinctions. That there is an observer effect. There's actually no objective reality out there, as my mentor and in quantum physics, Dr. Fred Alan Wolf, who wrote the foreword to Do You Quantum Think, he says it like this: there ain't no out there, because in the observer effect, the instrument of observation, that would be you and me, we're always shaping our experience of reality by what we bring to it. Mm-hmm. So that goes back to that individuality. And I think to how I have liked to say it, and I wrote it, that we're evolving. So I say it like a little bit sharp. You're going to evolve. What's it going to be? Conscious awakening or crisis awakening, or crisis awakening or conscious awakening. And until now, and I think including now, and maybe this is part of what's starting to shift, it has been crisis awakening. Every time we've had, let's call it like it is, some kind of traumatic or disastrous event, 9/11, the economic crisis of 2008, what else? Obviously, the pandemic in 2020. And so all of these events that affects the totality of humanity and all creatures and systems, that this is an awakening. So we keep getting that, 2x4 over the head. So what quantum think, I'm trying to say, wait a minute, maybe we don't have to get knocked on our head to wake up, when you realize that we are here to evolve. And we are in a time of an evolutionary shift that is literally a shift in consciousness to a more expanded awareness. And I know you talk about this in your book and with a lot of, probably most of your guests. But when we start to look at that, and the idea is, how do we take these quantum principles, these spiritual knowledge, this mystical insight, and ground it in everyday reality, so that we are here co-creating, collaborating to create, quote, it's a cliche, but everybody says it, a better world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, everybody's better is different, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I find it fascinating, specifically here in the United States, where we have some groups of people who have a particular mindset, if you will. And there's this perception on my part that these groups and these groups that are separate, group A, B, C, D, E, each one has its own mindset, but they want everybody else to adopt it. And I'm sitting here going, wait a minute. So would you rather that we all looked the same and sounded the same? We're all the same height, same hair color, same eye color, and on and on and on, because that's really what you're saying is you want everybody to be the same. And that's not the reality. The reality is that we are all different expressions of that hologram that you just spoke of. I think I shared this with you years ago. There was a film that we saw in high school, and they created this sheet of glass that would be used to take a picture of a building. But the building on the sheet of glass would be a hologram. All right. Then they broke the glass. And that building, the entirety of it, was on every single piece of glass from the broken whole glass. That is where we come from.
That's the holographic. That's exactly the It's about the holographic nature.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, a very good long time friend of mine was one of the early holographers. He had one of the first 4 holography galleries in the United States. And his was in Miami, where I live. And he invited me. I mean, he's the real deal. His name is Mark Diamond. He does a different type of advanced photography now. And he had these 3D, like 300, not 3D. Yeah, they are 3D, but 360 degree holograms that he created, like you would see at Disney World.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that. Yeah.
And he was friendly with the late great Buckminster Fuller. So he did one of these of him, and he had the what do you call that? The geodesic dome is built from the what's the sacred geometry part of it, where he's making this shape with these triangles, and those triangles, I can't think of the word.
Tetrahedron.
Yes, tetrahedron, thank you. And so in Mark's hologram of Buckminster Fuller, this is what he's doing. Actually, I have a video of it. And he did Ram Dass, and he did Dizzy Gillespie, like playing the horn with his cheeks all filled up, and then they would go. Anyway, you could probably see it on his website. Holo Man is his name. So I learned about holograms, a long, long time ago, because he invited me to the studio where he was making them and showed me how this worked, what you just said, you cut the piece of film and the whole image is contained in every smaller part. So what we're talking about, that it's not only a metaphor for life, I think it's an actuality of life. So we see this patterning, the other aspect is fractals, where you see patterns throughout. But I think that what is important, and you were talking about how, when we say to people, oh, consciousness is rising, we're going to a higher place, and then you look in the headlines in the media and it looks like anything but that, and people will say, well, wait a minute, and people are worried, they're scared. There's a great uncertainty about it. And so, why? Well, quantum think, it came through me because when I was younger, actually a teenage, and I would look in the news and I would say, wait a minute, I think I got off on the wrong planet. How did I land on a planet where people are manufacturing weapons to kill one another en masse? And it was just mind-boggling to me, Richard. And so I thought there has to be a better way because we had the right intent as humanity,
Mm-hmm.
and yet it wasn't playing out. So what is at the source of that? That's what I wanted to know. So you could say, in our multi-dimensions, that in one dimension, the dimension of the soul, it's infinite possibility, but I distinguish 7 dimensions: the physical, the energetic, the virtual dimension of mind, the cosmic dimension of principles operating throughout, natural principles, the spiritual dimension of heart. I'm just saying these because we can refer to them, and I call the esoteric dimension of soul,
Mm-hmm.
and the sacred dimension of the divine. So where it is all one, there are no distinctions, no separation in there. So if you look in the esoteric dimension, you could say, well, why are we like this? Well, we could say we're all awakening. All souls came here to evolve and awaken further. Some of us know it, and we're working on it consciously with intent for it. Others of us are still, not yet aware of it, but sometimes something happens and they wake up. It can be, again, a disaster, a disease, whatever it is. But the more that we create conversations, conscious conversations, like these, where people realize, oh, wait a minute, we've been in a diminutive aspect of looking at the nature of reality. And may I just say, as briefly as I can, the premise of quantum think, that what I realized is that, like everything in the universe is a system, and thinking takes place as a system. And what's shaping that thinking system is the overarching worldview. Basically, what we believe to be true about the nature of reality and how it works, including what's possible and what's not. So when I saw this, and at the time I was introduced to Fred Alan Wolf, and he wrote a book in the 80s called Taking the Quantum Leap, and it was written for laymen. And this is where he made the distinction between the characteristics of the industrial age worldview, also known as classical mechanical science, and the quantum worldview, which was the one that obviously has been emerging and makes all of our amazing technologies possible. So I was meeting with Fred, and and we were talking, and he explained to me how science makes a discovery, and they invent a language to name that discovery, excuse me, and then that language, that meaning comes into our collective language and into our thinking and into the world. So I use in my book, and when I'm speaking, because people understand it, the idea of a quantum leap, which, according to my research, in the 1920s, one of the father of modern quantum mechanics, Max Planck, And he discovered that energy doesn't move in a smooth, continuous flow, that it bursts in leaps, in packets of energy that he called quanta. So hence the term quantum leap, that these, these photons actually can change their state. And actually, our minds are quantum leaping all the time, because every time we have a different thought, that's it. You could say
That's
a
a
quantum
jump.
leap,
That's
but
a jump, yeah.
it's a jump. However, and so you can shift your reality. That's part of how do we transform our state so that we can remain in the highest state. Well, when you realize that, when you become aware that life occurs in quantum leaps, that you can do that with intention. But let me just finish the premise. So Fred and I were talking, and he told me this about the quantum leap. And my revelation, as I call it, is that it isn't just one term. So now, obviously, the term quantum leap, we use it quite colloquially, quite, oh, that's a quantum leap. And what I realized is, because of systems, it wasn't just one term. It was the whole system. So when you looked at that, the industrial age beliefs, assumptions, where the scientists at the time said only physical matter is real, only the physical. And you don't realize, because we're not consciously trying to think that way. And, we know there's spirit and all, the invisible realm. But our society has been conditioned to think according to a limited realm called the physical realm of the ordinary five senses. And how do we know this? Because you could say, well, why don't people believe the ancient? Now we're going back to where the ancient and the modern, right, is one. Why don't we believe the ancient wisdom of acupuncture or subtle energy healing or distance healing? This is, for much of the world, it's still in disbelief. It's now becoming, I think, much more so part of the collective, part of contemporary way of thinking. But when you look at that, we are conditioned to see things in parts. That was the, classical mechanical worldview, which was the universe as machine. Examine things, divide it into its constituent parts, figure out how they work together in a cause and effect, press on that moves way, and we'll be able to control nature. And I'm sure at the time, obviously, that science is still, a lot of it valid today, much of it invalid, but it's genius, okay? So each level of evolution, whether it's in science or, as you were talking about, and it always amazes me too, how theology, scholars, and people who look at and keep reinterpreting the religious literature and scriptures, that's evolving. The science is evolving. Our technology is certainly evolving, and it's now evolving itself. We should talk about AI. I try to stay very much up on it myself.
Yeah.
And so when I looked at this, I thought, oh, well, we've kind of been oriented, at least in Western society, around this classical mechanical worldview where we want to is everything, like it is that way. Not like everything is constantly energy in flux and that reality is malleable and that we have an effect on what we're seeing, what we're doing, obviously what we're emanating, our own personal resonance. And when we start to live from that framework, that's why I call it personal mastery, which does become mastery of any kind, but it starts with each one of us. So that is really the purpose, raison d'etre of Quantum Think, is to distinguish these principles. You will recognize them, the 21 distinctions I call them, because it's universal wisdom. And when someone distinguishes it, brings it on into your front world, what do you call it, stage view, that you recognize it, it resonates, and you realize, oh yeah, that makes sense. And what happens is that very, infinitely expansive consciousness that we all have gets activated. And then you realize, because when we hear wisdom, I'm not saying it's my wisdom, I'm saying it's wisdom that I'm distinguishing so that we can activate it in ourselves. When we hear wisdom, we know it. I call it, it's the undeniable. And we each have our own personal wisdom as well, the individual wisdom, like you say. You don't see everything the same way I see it, that she sees it, he sees it, they see it. And that is the beauty of life. And that is the time we're in, this quote, age of Aquarius. You know that astrology, I call it my hobby, that I've been an avid student of for years, because these energies affect us. These are planetary, they're beings, they're intelligent beings, just like not like we are, but a different type of being that is sending, they have their own messages and their own confluence of energies that point us in a direction. And when we look at, the age of Aquarius that we're in now, and it's being really emphasized with the planet, or they say dwarf planet Pluto, going into the age of the sign of Aquarius for the next 20 years until 2044. What energy is that bringing? Well, that is, this is I'm not going to try to sing right now. Maybe I will. The
dawning of the age of Aquarius.
Okay, so, harmony and understanding, right? The lyrics. And so at the same time, it's not a homogeneous collective where we're all the same. The Swami Vivekananda has a great quote, unity should not be mistaken for uniformity. We're not uniform, unified in our diversity. So then it gets back again to what you were saying at the very start, Richard, that this age of Aquarius, because Uranian ruled the sign of Aquarius, the sign of the individualist, the sign of the rebel, the maverick. Uranus rules all the airwaves, new technologies that we're going to see so much of it coming in now. More, we've had a lot, but it's speeding up even more so. And it is affected by the planets. It's affected by a lot of things, but we can get to what, depending on what lens you're looking through. But when you look at, this is the age where humanity comes together in harmony and understanding. How? By way of each of us recognizing our own individual value, our own unique purpose, gifts, talents, proclivities, interests that we each come in with to bring to the whole. And I think that's really when someone connects to that in themselves, and we should be teaching this at a very young age, like 2 years old, as soon as you can start to understand anything, that you have a purpose. It's unique. You'll discover it along the way of your life, and it will evolve and shift and change. Then we're going to have a planet of a lot of happy people.
Yeah, I would agree. Dianne Collins, my guest, DianneCollins.com is the website. And we are going to continue our quantum leap into the future, which is coming up here on Tell Me Your Story. The future, what does it hold? Well, you said some things there at the end of your comments in regards to us becoming aware of who we have always been, but also who we are now and why we're here and so forth. I have struggled for a number of years early in my career through probably the early 2000s, maybe even into the teens. I've got this massive toolbox and I've got all of these tools. I'm good at what I do, and yet I don't seem to. I mean, my goodness, I'm living here in California. I'm not that far from Los Angeles. I should be making six figures. All right. And yet there's a part of me, as much as, and I do want that because I want to do more. As the passage in many ancient wisdom teachings says, to whom much is given, much is expected. That's fine. I've no problem with that. But at the same time, my wife and I just moved into a house, and I love putting it this way, that is valued right around $250,000. That sounds so much better than the other, I just like the way that sounds, right?
It
right?
sounds good.
Okay. And yet I'm still doing what I'm doing. I'm still making what I'm making, and I'm not bitter about it. I'm not upset. I'm not envious of Elon. I'm not trying to compete with anybody. What I want to do is make this world a better place, as we just talked about a little while ago. And one of those areas that you say is a hobby, but I think it's a little bit more than that. And that is the astrological influence. Now, there would be those who would argue, oh, that's just a hokum. That's a woo-woo and this and that and the other. Okay, well, let me see if I can't bring it down to earth for you. Sorry, bring it down to earth is a wrong phrase, because we have a satellite that is orbiting this planet. We call it Luna, the moon. And that moon has an effect, first of all, and specifically on what? The waters, the oceans, okay? It is also impacting the water that is within each one of us human beings in some maybe small way, some big way. There are those who, setting aside the whole menstrual cycle argument, men and women go through monthly cycles emotionally, intellectually, etc. So if the satellite that is orbiting Earth is having that kind of an impact on us here on the surface of this planet, Terra, how much more do you think there isn't an impact on this planet by the other, what we call planets orbiting our star, good old Sol, okay? Not to mention other planets and galaxies and their planets and so on and so on and so on. And so it's like I think I can put to rest for some people the argument that it's woo. It's not, because there is an impact. And that example, to me, probably puts it to rest, I would hope. Needless to say, on this planet, there are at least two basic forms of astrology. And you probably deal in the most popular one here in the States, in the West, and that's Western astrology.
Right.
But there's also Vedic astrology, which my friend David Hawthorne has shared with us over the years. We even did some programs where we set up people to call in when we were doing the show live. And they would call in, and we called him the 3-minute astrologer, but the readings were anything but 3 minutes, which was fine. That was okay. And the way he described it, and I still think that Western astrology can be described in this fashion. The map that you, or chart that you would put together for me based upon my birth date and possibly time and place will map out certain conditions, and this is Vedic astrology predominantly, that will map out certain conditions that I may come across as I travel forward in time. And I use this example. About 200 miles out, there's going to be a rainstorm. Now, here's the deal. You can either not prepare, or you can take an umbrella, or you can take a poncho or a slick or whatever, rain boots and so on and so forth. It's your choice. And further down the road, it'll be sunny, and you might want to take some sunscreen, possibly. Maybe there's snow down the road, or maybe somewhere down the road, there might be a little shaking of the ground, and you might want to pause your trip, your journey forward in time, just for a moment until conditions are such that you can pass through this area with at least relative ease and safety, so on and so forth. Okay. And David says, yeah, that's a very good analogy. It's a map, but it's not telling you which way to go. It's telling you what conditions you're going to come across. Do you see Western astrology sort of doing the same kind of thing? It's not a predictor of your future,
Right.
as much as it is just giving you the conditions that you might run across from this date to this date. Nothing is in concrete per se, but
Right.
what are your thoughts
Okay.
in that regard?
Well, this is, and I call it the psychic scientist, the mystic science. Well, I'm a little bit, not terribly, but a little bit familiar with Vedic astrology. I had a couple of Vedic astrology readings, actually, my own. And there's one of the main there's a couple of obviously a lot of differences, but I think first of all, you're bringing out a very important point, an essential point, and this goes back to a quantum reality, is that there is no fixed and absolute way that things are. There could be, the eternal, absolute, divine, but we're talking about for human beings. And so we have free will. This is one of our gifts from God, is that we've been given free will. But the astrology chart, so in Vedic astrology, the Vedic astrologers say, well, that's more accurate because that's the exact placement of where the planets are now. And okay, there's something to it, because in Western astrology and things move, and so they're not exact. So I've always been in this dilemma. Well, how do you reconcile the two? So I don't have the answer to that, although I listen to both to see whether they're kind of arriving at the same thing, even though the sign will be, 27 degrees off or something, 20. Anyway, let's not get too technical. But I think the point is that you're born with the natal chart. And I prefer Western astrology. I don't know why. I'm just more drawn to it, maybe because I'm brought up in the West, probably. That you have the chart of the moment of your birth. This is where the planets were. So it's like, that's the picture of the sky at the moment you're born. That's called a natal chart. And then there are what's called the transits. So now the planets are, everything's orbiting the sun all the time. We're just talking about in this particular Milky Way galaxy
Mm-hmm.
that we're looking at. And so the energies that are moving, the planets are moving, and those energies are affecting us. Now, they're affecting us as a collective, and they say the outer planets, which have longer cycles. I should talk a little bit about that because there was a big change in them last year. And the closer planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, those are considered more the personal planets. So we're being affected by the planets that are moving through various parts of the zodiac. And it's not only that, I call it the light energies and their relationship to each other, because the angles, it's mathematical. I don't get too much into the mathematics because I can more feel it. I more psychically get it intuitively, but I do have some of the knowledge. But so it's affecting, when the planets are moving, they're affecting our personal chart and they're affecting the collective again. Universal and individual, it's going on all the time. It's a both and world. So when then you have to look at, and I had a great teacher, rest in peace, my original mentor in astrology, and she used to say, she had a way, she was from New York, she had a certain way of speaking, but that was kind of funny. But anyway, she would say, okay, you're born with the ability to wield a knife. Are you going to be a sculptor, a murderer, a butcher, or a surgeon? And so this is what you're talking about, is that a person could be born with let's say, potential, okay? In their chart, they were born with all these given talents and traits that they came in with, because you could think of it as a soul, a blueprint. So like you're doing your house now, a blueprint of the house, you can make changes,
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the blueprint of, you could call the soul's blueprint. Your soul comes in to evolve to the next place, and you're given, my other current teacher calls it the game board.
Yeah.
The game board of life. How are you going to play the game? And like what you said, you're going out. Is it going to be sunny? Are you going to prepare? Is it, what choices, to plug your book here, Joyce,
Yeah.
which I did get the other day and started reading it. It's great. Anyway, so we have this free will. We have tendencies. So yes, your Vedic astrologer friend, guest, who says, and I've heard from Vedic astrologers themselves, that Vedic astrology tends to be more predictive, and it's more in long, like sort of periods of life, like you're in your spiritual period, you're in your, motivational. Again, I don't know. I'm not a Vedic astrologer. I'm not even a Western astrologer. I'm an avid student of astrology for more than 30 years, since a child. So what I do and can say as a quantum thinker is that you could have all the opportunity, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What is America we both live in, the United States? What is it? The land of opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Now, whether you choose to take the opportunity, to bring yourself to it, it's the same thing. We're born with given, what makes you want to go into radio broadcasting? What makes me want to create a TV series, which, by the way, I am still working on.
Cool.
That, we each, I wrote it in my book, in the chapter called The Whole Movement of Purpose. how do you distinguish your purpose? Chapter 18. Anyway, is that I'm asking the question, what makes one person want to be an architect, another one an accountant, another one, an adventurer, athlete, whatever it is. I went through the A's there. Because we are born with these tendencies. And again, whether we choose to develop them, whether we choose to master them, or whether we choose to squander them, let me say it nicely, that's a choice. Now, this choice word is very important, because if we're functioning in the automaticity of ourselves, classical mechanical worldview, and I have a term called least action pathway, least-action pathway. The way the energy or the thought goes, because it's been that route before, it's the least conscious, the most mechanical. So we all have these. We have least action pathways of ourselves, of our families, of our relationships can develop least action pathways. Things that become automatic and then we're like no longer awakened to it. But when you have this, it's not its own distinction. It's in the distinction infinite possibility. That's distinction number 3 in the quantum think system. And I'm saying what keeps us from thinking from infinite possibility, when somebody says to me, oh, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, why not? Why can't I? Oh, because it's never been done before. It never worked before. This happens in corporations where my husband, Alan K. Collins, master, the only one and only master quantum think coach and consultant, and we deal with a lot of people, but our clients over the years in corporations, and this has a least action pathway to the culture in many companies where we can't do that. Didn't work last time, cost too much, the economy's bad. These are what we call least action pathways. Now, that is what prevents or usurps thinking from infinite possibility. Now, when you recognize a least action pathway, and I want to say it's not right, wrong, or indifferent, don't give it any meaning. It's just, oh, there's that least action pathway, as I've said many times on every show. Let it fly by like a bird past your window. I live on the ocean here. There's a lot of birds, pelicans flying by. And, as my husband and business partner, Alan, says, you don't hop on the back of every bird that flies by. Don't hop on the back of every thought that flies by, that comes into your thoughtosphere. It's like, if it's a thought that does not, because we give our thoughts meaning, and that's what gives us our experience and our emotional state, because we're giving the thought whatever meaning we give it. But because reality is malleable, we're not stuck with anything like that's the way it is. It's an infinite possibility universe. We can always shift our state. You recognize the least action pathway, don't give it any meaning, don't develop another least action pathway of making yourself wrong because, oh, I had a terrible thought and, I had a limiting thought, or forget, that's just another least action pathway. It's like, okay, get beyond it, right? Let that fly by like a bird past my window. And then what do? Well, you create with the genius creation principle that we have all been given by virtue of human birth. And that is what I call one of the 5 natural faculties of mind, intent. Intent is, let's say, your awareness directed, expressed in a thought, expressed as thought, but it's really a feeling tone. It's a resonant vibration of your being. But an intent has no meaning until we put it into language. So, a lot of people like to thought bash. Oh, forget thinking and get into the heart. Well, guess what? The heart is also you can't even have a heart unless you think about a heart. So we do name things and we have language, and this is how it works. So when you give a meaning to your thought, this is what gives you your experience. And in every moment, I mean every moment, we have the opportunity to shift our state by recognizing these principles that I'm talking about right now. And I think, Richard, and I'd like to know what you think. Anyway, I went off of the astrology, but it's the same. It is exactly what it is. We have tendencies. We have automaticities of thought. We have these ways of being that can become automatic, and we need the automatic too. That's how we type, drive, play an instrument. A lot of things, we need that. Obviously, the body works that way. We're not sitting here, monitoring every little, cellular connection. So that's where the infinite intelligence comes in, way bigger than whatever you and I could ever imagine, or fathom, I should say. But we can appreciate that in ourselves, and that working through us, and that being with us and connecting to us, and us able to connect into that infinite intelligent field. And this is what makes life so rich that you could just get so excited about it. But it does, again, require an awakened consciousness, awakened thinking. We need to be able to see when we're in an automatic belief, right? Like what you were saying, a lot of people today think, oh, my way is the way. And there is another distinction. I'll just stop here for a minute, but I want to say this. Perspective of all perspectives. And that is the ability to take a transcendent stance. So it's not like you don't have your own beliefs, your own point of view on everything. I say the great thing about social media is everybody can express themselves. The terrible thing about social media is everybody can express themselves. You see some of the meanest spirited things on there, distressing. But anyway, getting back to the perspective of all perspectives, you can appreciate another perspective, like, your theme song. Tell me your story and I'll try to understand it, right? That I don't have to believe it. I don't have to accept it. I'll try to understand it. And what can we do? We don't have control over another person to change them. If anybody's married, you already know that. As much as we try, it's not going to happen. But what we can do, because we exist in fields, we can, when we shift our intent, when we transform our own state, when we can reside in the perspective of all perspectives, we don't get collapsed into the either or, fight to the finish, blame, shame game. And this is what I think this spirit of awakening now, this great shift, is really about. So it's, again, it's not you and I are going to feel the same way about everything. No. But we do, and we hear some people on, certain podcasts who are a little more, awakened, let's say, where they say, we can talk about it. We don't have to fight to the death about it.
Yeah.
We don't have to bash whoever,
Mm-hmm.
because this is not who we are in our spirit, soul,
Yeah.
divine
At our
self.
core, that's not the way we are. And I've used this. I've talked about this on numerous occasions on numerous programs. My brother and I are on opposite ends of the political spectrum. Fine, that's not a problem. When we had a conversation, I made the commitment that I wasn't going to allow whatever we talked about to split us, to wedge between us. That he's my brother. I'm proud of him for everything he has accomplished in his life, for what he's doing, for what he believes, and so forth. And we had a great conversation. I'd be honest with you, we did. And we came out the other end of that conversation with 3 items, if you will, on our agenda that we agreed needed to be dealt with. We didn't necessarily agree on how, which didn't matter. The fact was that we had those 3 plus all of the, what you might call, normal. We have the same parents. We have the same bloodline. We're siblings. We want what's best for all of us, and so on and so forth. So I wish people could get to that space to understand that the whole reason why we have the kind of situation in this world that we do, and I'm not talking about the polarization. I'm talking about the fact that as much as there are those who hate this word, it's the only word that fits. We have a diversity of peoples across this planet, and that is the way it was designed. Would you much rather have all of the trees identical? I don't think so.
Right.
Okay. But that's really what is being pushed, is that we want everybody the same. We want everybody to be on this side. Oh, no. We want everybody to be on this side. Well, guess what? There are more than 2 sides. All right. That's one of the other misnomers, is there are only 2 sides in terms of polarization. There are 8.5 billion sides. All right, now try to draw that one. I have trouble with a pentagon or even the Merkaba, okay, or the tree of life. I actually did create a tactile tree of life for my first wife, who was totally blind, so she could feel it. And by the way, when I created that, I looked at it and I'm going, did Gene Roddenberry design the Enterprise in that context? Because if you look at it from the bow, from the front, looking to the back, to the stern of the ship, it has the look of the top of the tree of life. Okay. So the next time you see a shot of the Enterprise from the bow and then get a picture of the tree of life, compare them. You'll see what I see. It's just fascinating. We're talking with Dianne Collins, and we're talking about, all kinds of fun stuff regarding quantum thinking. And we hope that you'll stay with us as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Well, Dianne, I'll tell you what, it's always fun to get together with you and have these conversations, because you just never know where they're going to go. We did have a sort of an outline, and we did kind of go in that direction, and I'm glad that we did. Going to have you back again a little sooner than a year to continue this conversation. I think that with our time permitting, we'll cover some other areas as well as some of the new things that you are working on. And I look forward to having you back again, but thank you so much for being a part of the work we're doing here to try to change the world for the better for everybody.
It's always a pleasure. And I would love to come back sooner, because we didn't touch on AI, the lenses through which you view life, and how we deal with these changing times on a very practical level, and financially.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's
Yeah,
do that.
let's
Let's
do
set
it.
it up before we depart on this conversation. We'll set it up and we'll make sure that we do that. I'm going to ask you those three questions that I've always asked my guests and you. The answers change from time to time, from year to year. Before I ask you those questions, though, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are podcasting on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. We are also on YouTube and Rumble, where you can watch these conversations. Please subscribe and then click notification. We also hope you'll get a copy of my book, which is Choices, 5 Steps for Life, in both available in hardcover, paperback, as well as Kindle. And then if you can help us out financially, we would greatly appreciate that. There are two ways. You can either use Zella or you can use PayPal, but the email is the same. All you do is put in my email address, richard@richarddugan.com. And thank you to those who have helped and to those who will. We also ask that you take some time during this, the decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to spend some time going into that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still small voice. Follow the promptings as well, because in my opinion, it doesn't do much good to listen if you're not going to follow the guidance. I mean, that's what it's there for, okay? And just a reminder, it will never put you in harm's way. It may challenge you. It's challenged me, but it will never put you in harm's way. With all that being said, we move on to our final three questions for a very special guest. And the first of those is, who is Dianne Collins?
Dianne Collins. Well, I like to say a girl with a new point of view, but I like to say now, that just came to me, is I'm on a campaign for a quantum thinking world and for elevating consciousness. So campaigning for higher consciousness.
What gets you up in the morning?
Just that. I think being excited about really expressing my purpose in whatever way I can, listening to that voice, taking the promptings like, okay, what should I be doing today? And just letting it come through me and being excited about it every day.
And finally, what was your best day?
Wow, what was my best day? Well, today.
Okay. That works. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate your time.
So much.
I look forward to having you back. And should your husband, Alan, ever be so inclined, we would love to have him together with you on the program to have an extended conversation in that regard.
That'd be great, because
All
we
right.
do have that new, well, we're working on it. It's not out yet, but we're working on a new book together called The Company Mind.
Oh,
So,
I like that.
so that'll be fun. If you have us on together, we could talk about that.
I would love that. Well, we will get you back on and get the two of you on together as well. And thank you again. And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, video cast, love to love. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy, because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for being in my life and letting me be in yours. And to my dear brother, Michael, welcome to fatherhood, my friend. And to my dear friend, Zorro, aho, aho.